welcome to Fleet Safety Geeks. I'm Bob.
And I'm Phil, and we welcome you to our podcast.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Fleet Safety Geeks. I'm here with Phil Mosier. Phil, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Bob. How are you?
I'm doing great. We had a little break there for a while. We had some travel and conferences to attend. Did you go anywhere cool?
Oh, yeah, I did. Obviously, Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is beautiful in the fall, which fall is my favorite time of year. But it was for the NETS conference, which is the Network of Employers for Traffic Safety. Great conference. They covered a lot of good topics regarding driver safety. I think that is the most focused conference as far as safety. Everybody there is just, hey, they're a bunch of fleet safety geeks, Bob. I fit right in. So that was a great conference. And then I went out to Tucson, Arizona for the AFLA, American Fleet Leasing Association conference, and got to see a lot of friends I haven't seen in a few years here because of the COVID shutdown. So it was great to see everybody. And again, there was some talk about safety, which, you know me, it was right up my alley. So yeah, two very, very good conferences.
Yeah, that's great. I missed both, and I wanted to go to AFLA this year. And I actually won attendance registration for NETS at the I&E conference. And
Nice.
I couldn't make that because I was traveling. I had the NAFA board meeting, and then I had to visit some of our locations in the field. So unfortunately, I couldn't make either of those, but they sounded like they were both well attended. AFLA with really good numbers, so that's great. It's good to see people are able to get back out, start networking with people again. So that's awesome. And you mentioned Ann Arbor in the fall. Yeah, I used to live there. Loved it. It was great. Tons of different colors happening. And that's also kind of what we're going to talk about today, driving in the fall.
Right. So fall driving, it brings some challenges, and that's what we're going to get into.
Yeah. So I don't know what it did in your area, but on the first day of fall this year, it was really weird. It was like a switch was flipped. We had 80 degrees one day, and then the first day of fall, tons of wind came in. It got super cold, and it just settled in. It was just
we experienced the same thing, and my wife said, "We're not going to have any fall this year. It's going to go right into winter," and it sure did feel that way. But it turns out we're having a nice fall season here anyway in the Philadelphia area.
Yeah, no, same in Cleveland, and this weekend's supposed to be beautiful. Hopefully, we'll go out and see some of the fall colors. But with that change in the season, it brings some challenges to driving. Everything from, well, we're going to talk about trick-or-treaters. They're going to get in our way one night, so we got to watch out for them. Wildlife is probably, running around looking for the last bits of food before they're going to be done in the snow falls. Those leaves that fall and the rain that comes, they probably get a little bit slippery. So we'll want to talk about that. And you probably had it already as well, a little further east and north than I am, but we've already had a frost and snow on the ground.
Yeah, we have.
So those are all challenges that we need to get used to. And of course, the time change. Everything's getting darker. It's dark in the morning, dark at night. We need to watch out for that. So all different topics we're going to talk about today. So why don't you just jump right in and tell us about these trick-or-treaters?
So that's the first one I want to cover here is Halloween, right? So the kiddos are going to be out there, right? So when you're driving, please put the phones down. Please pay attention. You should be doing that all the time. This is especially true this time of year when the kids are out on the streets looking for treats. So watch out for them. Now, the thing of it is Halloween night falls on a Monday this year. So where I live, we always called the night before Halloween Mischief Night. And my brother and two sisters and we wanted always to go out both nights so we get double the amount of candy. But I'm thinking that there might be a situation here because, Mischief Night or the night before Halloween is on a Sunday. They may say, hey, school night, Monday, and you're coming home from school. So the parents and the kids may decide, hey, we're going to go out on Sunday instead. So you need to be aware of that when you're driving. So just watch out for them.
Yeah, in fact, some communities might just say, we're going to do this on Sunday instead of Monday.
Right.
They just might have different schedules as well. So, yeah, it's
Yeah,
something to think about. Either way, it's going to be spread out potentially over a couple of days, um, where you need to be careful as a driver.
exactly. Yeah, and if you see a kid near the road, if you see kids walking near the road, just expect that they're going to go in front of you. You just expect it. And you need to know. So I call it escape space driving. Like know where to go, and you need to know where that escape space is. Is there a car coming towards you, or would you be able to swerve around a kid if they step out into your path of travel? Just be aware of that, and just be ready to react, because I always tell people you can steer around something 5 times faster than you can stop for it. A lot of people's initial reaction is to hit the brake. That might not be your best move. If you're aware, you're paying attention, you know where your escape space is, you might be able to react properly and avoid hitting a kid.
No, that's good advice. And if you're driving through a neighborhood with trick-or-treaters, it's probably going to be, 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. And I would even maybe recommend just doing that school speed limit and just go 20 or less and just kind of
Mm-hmm.
crawl through the neighborhood and just be ready for someone to jump out, like you said.
That's correct. Bob, I'll relate this quick story. So when I was a rookie cop, first year I was working on Halloween. Here comes this high side pickup truck zooming up through Main Street. Kids are up and down both sides of the street. They're crossing the streets, and this guy is just roaring up through there. So I threw a stop on him, and here was a guy I had graduated high school with. And he said, "You didn't clock me." I said, "You know what? You're right. I didn't clock you." But he had big fuzzy dice on his mirror. So that's a windshield obstruction. So I wrote him for the windshield obstruction just because he made me so angry because of his just lack of responsibility to drive like that, especially when there were so many kids around. I saw him years later, and he said, "I deserved that ticket." He actually said, he admitted, he goes, "Yeah, I was being an idiot." He said, "You were right to write me up." And I thought that was pretty good of him to admit his fault. But yeah,
Yeah.
you need to slow down. You need to be prepared. Just expect that they're going to go out in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, like you said, they're going from side to side, street across the street. They want to get as much candy as possible.
Right.
And they think
Their
that
focus.
the entire neighborhood is their playground, right? They
Mhm.
can run anywhere, and just be prepared. Just know that someone's going to dart out in front of you.
Yeah, and don't expect them that don't expect that they're just going to cross at intersections and crosswalks. These kids will go
No.
across the street anywhere they can to get to the house that's handing out the big candy bars, right? So,
Yeah.
just expect that.
And they're going to be like deer. If you see
Mm.
one, there's another one behind them.
Oh,
So
yeah,
they're
and we're
going to
going to
be in
talk about
groups.
that later. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. Good segue into that one, Bob. It's yeah, but yeah, and here's the thing: if you can take a different route, it's going to take you away from areas where there are a lot of kids. Maybe not through the neighborhoods, and you can maybe it'll be a little bit further for you to drive, but you can drive around that area where there are going to be a lot of kids running around. Why not? Just avoid the situation. So
Right.
do that. Right.
Yep. Yep. That's good advice. All right. What are these kids wearing?
Oh
They're
yeah.
wearing
So
Halloween costumes, and you know, it's
so
not going to be very bright, maybe.
right. So I mean, when we were kids, we just went to my parents' closet and pulled out whatever we could. I always wore Dad's big shoes and everything. I was tripping all over the place, and I think back to that, and it was like that was pretty dangerous. But yeah, expect that you're not going to be able to see them real well. They'll be, maybe wearing dark clothing and things like that, and so you want to make sure that you can see as well as possible. So make sure your windshield's clean inside and outside. So make sure the windshield. People just I'll just run the washer. Well, if it's all smeared up on the inside, it's going to create a lot of glare, and you're not going to be able to see at night. So make sure the windshield's clean inside as well. And use your high beams as much as possible, as much as legally possible. Again, just so that you can see those kiddos. It increases your vision. So you want to
Yeah,
be
no,
able to
that's
see
great.
them.
So I mentioned the dark clothing, and there's a responsibility of parents sending their kids out, and the kids when they're choosing their costume. Maybe we should do a little bit better of making sure these kids are easier to be seen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Parents need to have some responsibility here, and even tell the kids, educate the kids, and say, "Here, listen. I know that your zombie outfit shouldn't be white with reflective, stripes on it, but it's going to keep you safe because we really don't want you to turn into a zombie. Have them wear some clothing that's going to be able to be seen by the motorists."
Yeah. All right.
Um,
What else can trick or treaters do
So yeah,
for
let's
them to be
talk
safe?
about responsibilities of trick or treaters, right? So I mentioned I used to wear my dad's shoes, which as my dad always said, he wore a size 1 dozen, which was a 12. Well, guess what? I wear a 12, so I grew into those shoes. But when I was a little kid, I used to wear like 5 pairs of socks just so I could get my foot in them without them slipping off too much. But that's not a good idea. That causes a risk of tripping and things like that. Clothing that's hanging down that can cause tripping. So again, be responsible in what is being worn as a costume, so it doesn't cause a tripping hazard. And I also suggest getting back to the uh, being able to be seen. Make every one of the kids carry a flashlight, not just one. It's like bringing up the rear or out in front, leading the way. Every kid, give them a flashlight. Just disinvest in a little small flashlight, so that so that they can be seen better.
Yeah.
And single file along the road. I know it's fun to walk 4 across with your buddies and everything, but if you're on the edge of the road, you should not be doing that. Single file. Talk to the kiddos about that one. I mentioned about crossing at the intersections and crosswalks. Tell the kids this is where you need to cross. Don't cross in the middle of the block and things like that when you're in an urban area, or if you're in a suburban area or an area where there aren't crosswalks or even a lot of intersections. Teach them the old left, right, left thing so that they know that they need to look and make sure they have an assured clear distance before they start to cross. And don't misjudge the speed of a vehicle. If a vehicle's coming, just wait. Just tell them, wait, be patient, and cross after it's completely clear. If there are sidewalks, use them. That's why they're there. And then again, I don't know about you when you were a kid, Bob, but heck, I think I do it even as adults. You see somebody and go up and go, "Hey, how you doing?" And give them a shove or whatever. I think I did that a lot at Athlon. That's just this past couple of weeks. People come up and give you the old slap on the back. "Hey, how you been?" Tell the kiddos, don't be pushing each other around, especially when they're near the road. Okay, because that again, you could get shoved right out into the path of a car. And the last thing I want to say to please, please, please educate your children. Don't let them eat any of the candy until they get home and can look at it. The parents can look at it. You always hear all the horror stories and everything, and I don't know how much of that is urban legend, razor blades and apples and things like that. But what I do know is that there are some bad people out there, and there could be some bad things that are being distributed out to the kids. So have the parents tell the kids, please don't eat any of this stuff until you get home. And that's, back in the day, and I'm talking, Bob, I'm old. This was back in the 60s. My parents always made us bring our candy home before we could eat any of it. And we'd dump it out on the table, and mom and dad would look at it, and then we could eat it. And they would always take a couple pieces also. So
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
right.
When I inspect the candy, it's just because I make my own pile.
Well,
This
yeah,
doesn't look
especially
safe. This doesn't
little
look
candy
safe.
bars. Those suckers are good, man.
Um, and two, if you're a kid and you're trick or treating and you go to a house that's handing out apples, tell your friends, don't go to that house.
Yeah.
Who wants an apple for trick or treat?
Exactly right. Hey, listen, they're handing out full-size candy bars at this house. It's going to be the most popular house on the block, rather than those. And have you noticed that the mini candy bars have even got even more mini? It's like,
Right?
come
Yeah.
on, man, you're gypping these kids here, candy
Yeah. Yeah.
manufacturers.
Help your friends. All right. Well, that's great. Trick or treating is always fun.
It is.
It's a very popular holiday. It's one that's really kid oriented. So there's going to be tons of kids out there. So we just need to be careful. And this is for all drivers. This isn't, this is a Fleet Safety Geeks podcast.
Right.
Not a lot of fleet drivers are going to be driving around at night. But this, we talk a lot on what's going to help everyday drivers. So this is an important one. In fact, all these topics can be for everyday drivers. But as we go
Absolutely.
on to the next topics, wildlife, hitting a deer. I mean, that's one of the most expensive collision repairs that you can do, make as a fleet. Um, you can clip one and it can be a couple $1,000s of damage. You can hit one head on and you could total a car. So this is the peak season, especially up in Michigan. You were just up
Mhm.
there. I'd managed a fleet in Michigan. We finally ended up just putting brush guards on. Um, Even though I still had damage happen, it protected most of the vehicle.
Right.
We were going through vehicles like crazy.
Yeah.
Um, so what can we tell all of our drivers, including fleet drivers, about wildlife in the fall season?
Okay, so in fall, is I call it deer hitting season, and certain states are more prevalent for those: Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan. These are New York. I mean, the states where there are a lot of big deer population and a lot of cars. So it's fall rutting season. So it's rutting season for the deer. So that's when they are really active. They get kind of crazy, and also hunting season has started. Already has started in my area, and so that's going to be moving deer around. So there's going to be more, as a result of this, more deer are going to be crossing the roads, and then they conflict with the vehicles there. So be aware that it is the most active time of year, and also at dawn and dusk are when deer are most active. So just be, especially diligent then. And if you see those deer crossing signs, they don't just put them out there ambiguously. They put them out there for areas where there have been a lot of deer collisions. So if you see those signs, know that this is a prevalent area for deer collisions, and you better slow down. I mean, at least the speed limit, or maybe even a little bit below that, especially during the times when they're around the most, which is, like I said, dawn and dusk. Um, so if the deer would cooperate and cross at the deer crossing signs, then it'd be a lot easier for us. But they never cooperate with that one, Bob. Uh, if
Yeah,
you
I often
see,
wondered how the deer knew that that's where they were
I
supposed to
know,
go.
right? It's like you see a deer like crossing guard, with a little sign, like stopping the cars. That would be great, but
Yeah,
unfortunately, we don't have that. If you see one, expect more. Deer are herd animals, so expect, if you see one, expect more. And again, use your high beams as much as possible, and watch for those reflective eyes, because deer do have reflective eyes. The only larger animal like that does not have reflective eyes is a moose, and you don't want a moose in front of your car. Um, that there's a technical term for that. That's called bad. Um,
yeah,
if you see a deer standing alongside the road, a lot of people say, "Well, I'll blow the horn and chase him back in." It might chase the deer out in front of you. So avoid the urge to blow the horn. Now, if you see like they're ready, like they're coming towards the road, and you want to blow the horn, then that's a different situation. But if they're just standing there, let them stand there. You don't want to startle them out in front of you. If there is a deer in your path, a lot of people, I said about swerving to miss kids, but I would urge you, don't swerve in these situations. I've investigated a lot of deer collisions, and I've investigated a lot of collisions where people swerved to miss a deer and got into a worse collision with a pole or guardrail, or running off the road and flipping over, or even into the path of an oncoming vehicle, swerving to miss a deer or any other type of animal. Hit
hmm
the animal. I'm an animal lover, Bob, but hit the animal. But if you are going to be hitting a deer, again, your reaction may be, pound down on the brakes to try and avoid the collision or lessen the severity of it. But the problem is, if you're pushing hard on your brake, the front end of your vehicle is going to deflect down. And what happens if you hit a deer like that? Now it could ride up over your hood and into the windshield, and that could be devastating. So I would suggest, again, avoid the urge to, if you're going to be hitting a deer, lift up off that brake. And that sounds like, oh well, how am I going to remember all this? Well, you're not going to remember all this unless you think about it now.
right.
So again, it's about being prepared. So that they're the things I typically tell people as far as trying to avoid deer collisions or trying to lessen the severity of a deer collision.
Yeah. Two with you said swerve to miss kids, but if you're in a community and kids are trick or treating, you're not going 45, 50 miles an hour that you
Shouldn't be.
might be doing on a road where a deer is going to jump out in front of you. So
Right.
it's easier to swerve or hit the brakes to avoid hitting a child, which, hopefully you're not going that fast during
Yeah.
trick or treating. But on the road, if you try and make one of those maneuvers, it's going to, have a bad result, especially if you hit a tree or a pole or something like you said. So that's a
Correct.
good point.
Correct. They don't move. Poles don't move typically.
No.
And
Yeah.
trees don't move. So yeah, not good.
Yeah. All right. So basically just drive through the animal is what we need to remember to do, right?
Yeah, I mean that sounds really cruel and everything,
I
and
know.
maybe you'll be getting calls from different organizations for us saying this. And you know what, Bob? We didn't give our disclaimer here. These are the recognized as best practices. Again, you have to make a decision based on your circumstances at any given point in time. So there's the disclaimer. But that's what these are the things that I typically tell people as far as with trick or treaters and deer and things like that.
Right. No, it makes sense. All right. We talked earlier on one of the topics we're going to talk about is how the road condition can change really at any change of season. We've talked about this before. We've done summer
Mm-hmm.
driving. Um, fall driving. We're in a new season. The road is going to change a bit. We're going to have frost. Leaves are falling. There's probably some rain. How does that impact the roads?
So every road has what's called coefficient of friction, right? That's basically the stickiness of the road, the stopping ability of the road, or the traction ability of the road. And if there are leaves, especially under wet conditions on the road, the coefficient of friction drops. I mean, down to area similar to ice. Okay,
Right.
so if there are leaves on the road, you need to slow down. If you're driving through an area where there are a lot of trees overhanging the road or leaves are blowing out onto the road, you need to slow down. And also, you need to be aware that, okay, so you're barreling through this curve, but when you get midway through the curve, there's an area where the leaves are dropping down. This could cause you to slide right into the oncoming traffic lane. So just be aware of that as well. Again, the old thing that we always tell people, Bob, slow down. It makes sense, but it just seems that people forget to do that under these circumstances. So just be aware that leaves can cause a lot of problems if you're driving recklessly or too fast.
Yeah. And then, you've got a talking point on here about ADAS. We've talked about
Mm-hmm.
ADAS before, its potential limitations. It's not really designed to drive your vehicle,
Right,
but an ADAS system is designed to be able to see the road
right.
to work properly.
Mm-hmm.
If that road is covered with leaves, and we'll talk about winter driving here soon, I'm sure, but um, if that line on the side of the road is covered with snow, that ADAS system isn't going to work.
Right,
And if you've trained yourself to be so reliant on it, you're going to put yourself in a bad position.
right. And if the lines are covered with leaves, same situation, right? So
Right.
your lane keep assist or whatever that you've become dependent on to correct you back into your lane when you're texting on your phone, it's not going to work real well. So it's the again we always say, and we'll always have to say, pay attention. Don't be too dependent on your advanced driver assistance systems in these situations, because they may not work effectively just because they can't see the lines. They can't even see the edge of the road because it's all leaf covered. So they don't be dependent on those systems.
Yeah. All right. And I think we talked about this, as one of the bullet points, but it's happened here in Cleveland. It's probably happened in your area, but we've already had snow on the ground, but we've certainly woken up to frost. That's going to stick to the road, especially at night, right?
Right. Yeah, so we're getting to a point where there's going to be some ice conditions, especially on overpasses and things like that, or at intersections where cars stop and condensation is dripping down onto the road and can cause icy conditions right at the point where the roads intersect. And because it was 31 at my house this morning, it's 35 right now, so the roads are going to be freezing. So be aware of that and drive accordingly. Just again, be prepared.
Yeah. In fact, we had snow on the ground, but in Cleveland, I know if you ever watch a national broadcast of the Browns and
Mhm.
it's doing some sort of weird snow, it looks like hail, but it's not hail.
Right.
And the commentators are like, "What the hell is it doing here in Cleveland?" You know, they don't know what it is. And then some meteorologist calls in and says it's grapple. And grapple is sort of looks like hail, but it's kind of like frozen snow, but it's little balls,
Right.
and it falls down hard. It can cover a surface very, very quickly, and those little balls are like marbles. And even
Mm.
if that road is not covered in ice or snow, you're going to have a bad experience driving on grapple. I don't
Right.
know why it's called grapple. I have no idea why it's called that, but be careful driving in conditions where your road surface is slipperier than usual. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's a fun one.
that is a fun one. Like, so grapple, I
Grapple.
was not aware of grapple. That's pretty funny. I
Yeah,
like that. So you learn something new every day here on the Fleet Safety Geeks. So
that's right. Yeah, watch
beware
out for
of
grapple.
grapple. Right.
I'm probably
Uh,
saying it wrong too, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's called.
that's pretty good. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, just be aware, and again, just practice some common sense here. When we get into winter driving, I have a term that I use all the time, which is seasonal driving amnesia. People forget how to drive in bad weather from one season to the next. But yeah, just be aware, and even if you're driving in an area where there aren't leaves on the road, or there are various things in every area of the country that come along with fall. So just again, be aware of the circumstances that you have in your area so that you can adjust your driving accordingly.
that's right. Well,
Right.
um, with the fall season, it's darker in the morning and darker at night. That's going to
Right.
change your usual routine of, the seasonal amnesia, as you said. We had plenty of brightness and sunshine when we drove over the summer. Now we have less of that. That's going to impact. Well, let me tell you this: it's going to impact my ride because um, I drive east to get to work, and then I drive west to get home. So I'm in the sun pretty
Right
much
in your eyes. Right
both
in your
both
eyes.
ways.
Yep. Yep.
So it's adjusted a little bit now that the sun's in a different position.
Hmm.
And it's not impacting me as much as it is over the summer, but it's also getting darker sooner. So those are really things that we need to watch out for as well, right?
That's exactly right. Again, the what I said earlier about so that you can see, make sure your windshield's clean inside and out, make sure all your lights are working properly, clean the headlights off every so often, make sure that they're working properly. And because of the different times for sunset and sunrise, you may be driving at a point where it is directly in your eyes. So make sure that you have good sunglasses to combat that, and use your visors or whatever. I drove home from work yesterday and I had it on my left side and it was coming in. So I just moved the visor over there and I was fine. Had my
Yeah.
sunglasses on. But again, just be aware of that. And don't wait to do these things until the sun is like whacking you right in the eyes. It always amazes me. You hear on the reports on the radio, oh, it's a sun glare slowdown. Oh, they forgot that the sun came up. So you see these people like reaching for their sunglasses just as they're coming around the corner where they know they're going to get whacked in the eyes with this stuff. Why not put them on ahead of time? So you don't have to be reaching, which then causes another hazard, which you're distracted. So a little preparation here. Another thing, Bob, I want to mention, we talked about ice and snow and everything, but one of the things that really, really irritates me this time of year is when I see people driving with the frost on their windows.
Oh,
I
yeah,
got to
I
tell
hate
you, and,
that.
and people are going to think I'm a real tough guy, writing everybody up, but that was an instant ticket. If I saw somebody and they have like the little bitty spot right in
Hmm.
front of their face scraped for the windshield, and that's it. That is so dangerous. And also because of the change in temperatures, you might get some fog on the inside of the windshield. So you have to run your vehicle. I don't want to, not excessive idling and all the problems that causes, but turn the car on, turn on the defrosters, rear and front, and scrape the windows. And typically that's going to be enough time for the windows to clear up and warm up enough. You don't have to run your car for a half an hour to warm up.
Hmm.
But you might have to run it for a little while so that you can get the fog on the inside and the ice on the outside to
And
clear
you
up.
know, not everybody that listens is in an area where they get heavy snow, but in
Yeah.
our areas we do, right? So
Right.
if you have a foot of snow on your car, try and clean off the top too, because when you're
Everything.
driving
Right.
down the road, you're creating a whole blizzard for everybody behind you with all that
And
snow
that is a
flying by.
violation, Bob. That is a
Oh,
violation in
okay.
every state
Yeah.
that has has snow. That is a violation not to have it. It's things flying off your car like that, including snow. You can be written up for it. So avoid the ticket and be safe. Okay. So
Yeah.
wow,
No,
it's just
good point.
I'm talking a lot about writing tickets today. I must be in a nasty mood or something. Yeah,
Well, it's all important stuff that we need to know,
it is.
fleet
It is.
drivers and everybody else. So this is going to impact everybody. So we want to be careful out there. We also don't want to avoid these tickets that you're anxious to write.
Exactly. I wasn't that much of a hammer. I mean, but if somebody needed a ticket, they got a ticket. It's like
Yeah,
just don't be a knucklehead. You know.
that's right.
Excuse me. So yeah, I think that's about all I have. It's one of the things in driving in the dark. You can reduce your dash lights if you can lower them down. Might reduce some glare, and then also don't look directly in the headlights of the cars coming towards you. Look up and to the right. That's going to give you your best. But keep that other vehicle in your peripheral. In case they come, start encroaching on you. But that's your best way to avoid getting the glare from the oncoming headlights.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, all good points to talk about. This could become a common theme with us, and when we have season changes, is talking
Yeah.
about that season change. But really, it's really important to be aware of how your road surfaces are going to change, how your everyday driving is going to be a little bit different, and just think about it. It's going to really help keep people safe out there.
Yeah, and we this is a general safety topic. We are the Fleet Safety Geeks. So I'm hoping that if there are people who are following us who manage fleet drivers, maybe share some of this stuff with them to help to keep them safe and get them home safe every day.
Yeah, they should all download this podcast before driving. Put their car in Android Auto or Apple CarPlay mode and listen to this on the way in. So yes, that would be very
There you
helpful.
go. There you go.
All right. With that, we try and keep these to about 30 minutes. So unless you have any closing talking points there, Phil, we can end this one.
No, I think we covered it, Bob. I'm hoping that we covered it. There's probably something somebody's going to say, well, why didn't you talk about this? But, trying to just come up with some just good general talking points that are going to help to keep drivers safe. That's the whole idea of this one.
Yeah, and if everybody wants some tips, we're putting different safety tips out on our social media channels. They're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. You can find other safety tips out there. Please follow us and have those tips available for you and your drivers. And if you do follow us on different podcast platforms, please make sure you follow us so that you can be notified of new episodes. We're also on YouTube. And if you can like and subscribe us there and be notified of new episodes as they come out, that would be great. Other than that, Phil, I think that we've talked about this one. I'm looking forward to Halloween this year and seeing all the kids' costumes.
All right.
This is going to be a fun season. Everybody's kind of back out and doing things. One thing I will say, I know my neighborhood got really creative and they created these little tubes to send candy down from the second floor, and it would shoot out the tube so nobody had to have any interaction. I thought that was kind of neat.
That's kind of cool. I never heard that one before. That's pretty
Yeah,
neat.
and some of them just keep doing it just because it is kind of fun.
Because it's
So
fun, right?
yeah, yeah.
That's cool.
But this should be a fun season. So we want everybody to stay safe and enjoy it. So hopefully this was helpful for everybody.
Have fun, but be safe. Right?
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, I hope everybody has a great week, and we look forward to coming back with some special guests here very soon. So be on the lookout for more episodes in the coming weeks. Thanks, Phil. We'll see you. Have a good week.
Bob. Take care now.